Anytime you hear Alan ask me questions or me ask Alan questions, we've probably been asked these before, or we've already asked each other these at some point in our lives. So if we ever hammer answers, and it's going to take you way longer the first time.
I want everyone doing that for life. Lifestyle design. Like, we think more about what we want to do on our vacation than we do what we want to do in our lives and in our careers. And I think that's a travesty.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We're laughing because Alan looks like an airplane pilot with his clothes on. If you're not watching, you should watch us on YouTube. All right, today, we hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was last week's Meetup Monday, How Not to Outgrow Your Partner. Today, for episode number 653, questions you should be asking yourself. So in order for us to facilitate the questions you should be asking yourself, I am going to ask Alan some questions about the questions that you should be asking yourself.
But before we start, welcome to Delta Airlines. Now, if you're on YouTube, I've got the headphones, and I look like
we need your shades. That's what we need.
Airplane pilot. So we will be arriving in approximately 15 minutes to our destination.
Yes, we will.
And yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, we're recording all of our episodes. As you guys know, we record most of them on the Monday prior to them releasing. So Alan and I are in a giggly mood. So hopefully this week's episodes we'll be able to do them.
Yeah,
in one take.
That's really important.
So one of the things that I have seen from you is asking deep questions, particularly, honestly, when you and I are going deep and we're trying to figure out my limiting beliefs, you always have really good questions. So Alan said at the beginning of this, like, hey, I want to interview you for something. You should interview me. And I was thinking, what do I want to interview Alan on? I think you have really good questions to help people dig deep.
Thank you, brother.
How do you come up with your questions? And what questions can people use with themselves? Maybe they don't have somebody there to ask them. Like, what questions should people be asking themselves to get to the next level?
The first question is, how do I know what questions to ask, or how do I come up with questions? I would say I think the first thing to understand is that I'm always trying to examine life. I'm always trying to understand life. I'm like super curious.
Yes, you
all
are.
The time. And I think that's something that I've always kind of had. And the first question I would ask everyone out there listening is, what's your intention? So if you go into a room with the intention to understand things at a deeper level, to contemplate life, of course you're going to ask more questions. Every time I step in the room with you, my intention, whether it's conscious or subconscious, is to learn and grow together so that we can add more value on this show. And I think because of that, we're always trying to uncover limiting beliefs and stuff. I think I want to understand everything.
How do you get to somebody's limiting beliefs?
Asking the right questions.
What's the right question? So if you and I were sitting down, you did it today.
Yeah.
Right? How did you come up with the right questions? Like, how do you know what questions to ask?
I'm trusting my intuition, which is, the intuition can only be trusted if you have the intention first. So you have to identify, I intend to find my own limiting belief. Okay, step one. Step two, I'm going to ask questions to get there. What questions do I want to ask? And then your intuition will come up with them. Maybe this is something that's natural for me. But, like, for example, what was one of the questions that I asked you today?
I believe it was, why are you being such a lazy ass?
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. No,
okay. That's good. That's a good question.
One of them was, are you happy?
Yeah.
One of them was, are you fulfilled? Do you feel like you're more fulfilled now than you used to be? I think contemplating your own life is the way you evolve. And I don't know if people do that as naturally, but I think it's really important to set the intention to contemplate your own existence and to ask questions. So I'll give you some good ones just for the tactics. One of the questions I ask often is, where are you chasing pleasure at the expense of fulfillment? What are you the most fulfilled doing? Here's another question. What are you the most fulfilled after you're done doing it? That's another really good one. Here's one. What's one belief that you think might be holding you back? Go ahead.
Mine? One belief. That I don't have to work as hard as I did
before.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I would just go down the rabbit hole of questions. So then I would follow. So Kevin's answer to, what's one belief that might be holding me back? Okay, now the next question would be, why do you think that you shifted that?
We're doing this, huh?
If you want.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
I think, and this is very interesting, the episode with Stephen Kotler when he talked about being, was it 4% outside of your comfort zone?
Yeah.
That jeffed me a little bit because I realized in retrospect I've been way out of my comfort zone for the last 4 years pretty much. And I felt, I think subconsciously and consciously, I felt like, you know what, you deserve a little break. Like, give yourself a little break. You've been way out of your comfort zone for so long that you probably need it.
Right.
Whether I do or don't, I don't know. I don't think I do as much as I've given myself, honestly.
Really?
No. Like I said, I've been listening to the radio on the way home. I know that's jeffing.
Why do you think that I am so naturally inclined to ask questions?
I think because you're curious. It's almost like, in a weird way, I don't think you put pressure on yourself to ask the right question. I think you just are curious. So I think your intuition just searches for it.
Right.
Where I might think of like, I'm gonna make sure I ask the right question here to get deep. Where you're just curious, genuinely. I can tell because you have this thing where you put your hand in front of your face when you're talking. You do it all the time when you're asking questions. I don't know if it's because you don't want me to see you smirking if you're laughing. I don't know, but you always do that when we're having a deep conversation. You always go like this.
I do.
That's how I know you're waiting for an answer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think being insatiably curious about people and about yourself is really important. But I do think that's kind of natural. And for anyone out there listening, the important thing is to constantly be asking and answering questions. That's what thinking is. Thinking is asking and answering questions. So another good example of what's the most valuable use of my time. That one question can change your life. What's the most valuable use of your time?
This?
Okay, exactly. And knowing that, now you can do something with it. So if the most valuable use of Kevin's time from his perspective is podcasting, well then, of course, it makes sense for us to do it 7 times a week. Whereas if you never asked the question, you'd never double down on it.
And I think it's important to understand, too, that anytime you hear Alan ask me questions or me ask Alan questions, we've probably been asked these before, or we've already asked each other these at some point in our lives. So if we ever hammer answers, and it's going to take you way longer the first time. So when you go to somebody and say, are you the most fulfilled you've ever been? How does that process go?
I ask my clients that often because honestly, that's what I'm optimizing for is fulfillment. Like, I don't really care if you're having more fun or not. I think if you're the most fulfilled, I've said this many times, I'll say it again, I believe fulfillment is the soul's recognition of alignment with its highest self. So whenever someone hires me, that's my main focus. That's what I'm optimizing for. And so your original question, how does that go? It usually takes them a while to contemplate it for a minute. And you can tell when they're really digging. And usually when I ask it, there's the long pause. And I usually say, and trust your intuition. Like, what does your intuition tell you? Not your fear, not what you think you're supposed to respond, but like your intuition. What's your truth? I'll follow up the question. Okay, let's say we're on a coaching call right now, and I say, are you the most fulfilled you've ever been? And then you'll contemplate for a little while, and I'll say, what's your intuition tell you? What's your truth? And you'll say, yeah, I think so. Then I'll follow it up with, why do you believe that is? And then this is one of the things that I don't think a lot of people fully understand about coaching, and I didn't either before I was a coach. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to get you to tell me what you're going to do. At the end of my coaching calls, my clients know this, the team knows this. I always say, like, what's the new intention? Now we have a new awareness. What's your new intention moving forward? Because a lot of times it's like we want the tactic, or we want like, oh, I got to go to bed earlier, or I got to wake up earlier, or I got to do this. But if you don't understand why, if you don't understand the root cause of why you're not going to bed earlier, it won't change. And usually it's an identity thing. It's a belief thing. At the end of the day, all behavior is belief-driven. We are here right now in this moment because we believe, unconsciously, subconsciously, or consciously, or all three, that this is the most valuable use of our time right now. If we believed it wasn't, we wouldn't be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest issues for our listeners that we've seen is not everybody has people in their corner trying to lift them to the next level, and even the people who are trying to help don't always know how.
That's why Kevin and I created Next Level Group Coaching. It's a 3-month program on teams of 10 with all people committed to achieving their goals. Click the link in the show notes for more information.
And we only take 10 people at a time, so make sure you get in quick.
And so that's kind of what I want everyone out there thinking about is like, are you consciously, think about this, you're going to go on vacation. You're going to probably plan where you're going to stay. You're going to plan what you're going to do and why. You're going to plan what you're going to travel, what sites you're going to see, what photos you're going to take, who you're going to bring with you, what you're going to pack. I want everyone doing that for life. Lifestyle design. Like, we think more about what we want to do on our vacation than we do what we want to do in our lives and in our careers. And I think that's a travesty.
What about, how do you get somebody to dig for identity? What's your process there? Like, what are your questions?
Who do you aspire to be? And why? Another question is, who are your heroes? And what do you admire about them? Another one is, what are you envious of? And why? That's a good one. That's a really powerful one. If someone out there right now is envious of you and I and our lifestyle, that's for a reason. And it probably means on some level that they want to do what we're doing or something similar. When I first interviewed you on Conversations Change Lives, you literally had that moment of like, what if you could do that for a living? And it was like, oh my God, I want to do that for a living. If you didn't ask that question, what if you could do this for a living? And then Andrew saying you could, would you be where you are today? See, this is what shapes our destiny, man. It's wild.
Shout out to Cope Daddy for instilling the belief. Okay, if you and I are sitting down, there's an asteroid coming towards Next Level U headquarters.
Oh, yeah.
And this thing is cooking.
Coming in hot.
And they say, look, this is the last podcast episode you two ever get to record. We'd shed a little tears. It'd be terrible. And I said, hey, you can only leave the listeners with 3 questions. 3 questions that would be super, super impactful for them. What would your 3 questions be?
What are you doing now that you will most likely regret in the future? What aren't you doing now that you will most likely regret in the future? And what do you believe you can serve the world with that is uniquely suited to you? And I'll follow up with that. What is it? I'll use one from Jim Carrey. He says, "How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide?" That's all you have to figure out. What is it that you're uniquely here for, and only you know? Those would be the questions. Great question, by the way. Strong.
You know, I was gonna make a joke at the beginning of it, because sometimes you take a second to think that the asteroid would have already crushed us to death.
Oh.
And that would be the end of the episode. There would be no questions.
No questions.
What's the most powerful question you've ever been asked? Besides every question I've ever asked you.
That was one of them.
That was one of them?
Genuinely.
Wow.
Yeah, that was one of them. What's the most powerful question I've ever been asked?
Almost like we've done this 655 times.
Okay, this is going to be weird. I asked myself a question for a long time that Emilia helped me contemplate. And I do think she came up with a better answer than I did, to be honest with you, which is wild. I asked myself the question of, is it possible for human beings to create a mind that's greater than its own self? And she answered it after we watched a movie called Ex Machina. And I think that contemplating that, and again, I'm a weirdo, I'm a nerd, so is she, so I'll just admit that up front. But like, can this human brain create a brain stronger than itself? And she said, yes, if you get a bunch of brains together and then create one. This is an AI conversation, artificial intelligence, for anyone who doesn't know. That question, I think, is really, really powerful. Because I could try to explain this. I think the future will have AI, and I think that it's important for me to understand that, because I know that that will affect the way in which we live and the way in which we contribute. You and I, specifically. Yeah.
What question do you wish you asked yourself earlier?
What am I doing? Those three that I already said. What am I doing right now that I will probably regret? What am I not doing right now that I will probably regret? And then, what am I uniquely here for?
What do you think? Okay, what's a question you should be asking yourself more? I like this episode. It's easy for me. I just kind of hang out. I'm just going to get a little closer. Don't mind me when you open your eyes. Just getting the timer. I don't want you to freak out.
What's a question that I should be asking myself more?
Yeah.
I would say this. What is a blind spot that I am most likely allowing to negatively affect my growth and contribution?
I dig that one.
You've helped me identify one earlier today. I asked Kevin, do you think that I'm living past 5? And for those of you who are new listeners, 5 means you're confident, but you're also humble. You have self-belief, but you also know that you don't know everything. And so he said, I think maybe a little bit past. But that's me asking questions for my blind spots. That's why I try to get feedback, but only from people who I trust to give me the real answer. I don't trust an insecure person with that answer because they might think I'm arrogant when I'm really not. But again, for the listeners, I think it's important for all of you to contemplate what questions you've been asking yourself. If you're asking yourself, why do I suck? That's a disempowering question because you're just going to look at all the reasons you suck. And remember, your subconscious is asking questions all the time. If instead, where am I sucking that I can improve? That's a much more empowering question. So it's identify, rectify. I just want to give the listeners this. Your listeners this. Our listeners this. It's weird because I'm being interviewed.
How the tables have turned.
I'm used to being interviewed on other shows.
This is like a throwback. It's like a throwback a little bit.
Right?
Of hyperconscious. And on the next episode, Alan's going to interview me.
And the title is very hyperconscious.
Oh, no, it's not the next episode because remember, we have a Thursday episode. It's the whole thing.
That's right. Okay, Friday's episode. It'll be change the way you think, change the way you live. The last thing I'll say on this episode is this. Identify, rectify. Identify, rectify. Why ask questions? Because you can get answers. And with those answers, you can make positive change. So we're doing Next Level Certified Coaching, and I'm always, the theme of this past weekend, this weekend, is identify, rectify. Identify is ask questions until you get to the root cause. And then once you know the root cause, now you ask questions to find a solution. Rectify, identify, rectify, identify, rectify. So to give a tangible example, what's one of my blind spots is identify. Okay, one of my blind spots is I might be acting a little bit arrogant lately. Okay, rectify. What am I going to do about that? I'm going to ask Kevin to call me out when I'm arrogant. See? Solution. Identifying challenges and problems is only half the equation. You then have to identify solutions to act on. Boom.
I like this episode. This was a fun one.
It was.
It felt there was a good flow. It wasn't, I enjoyed it very much. We have a breaking announcement.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Alan and I recorded an online course that we are going to be launching this week. So when you're listening to this, it might not be out, but we will have all of that on the website. What it really takes to get to the next level. The 5 most important things that we have found from hundreds of episodes, hundreds of coaching calls, other podcasts, interviews, all that happy jazz. Like, what does it really take? What do we wish we knew when we started this journey? It's affordable, $47. It's compact. I believe it's probably like an hour and 10 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes, broken up into 5 different modules. It is amazing, and we're very, very happy and blessed to be able to release it to you guys. So you won't see it on this episode, but keep your eyes peeled. We'll have a link in the show notes when it is up and live.
It's the format and the form factor that's going to matter because there's worksheets. There's a lot that comes into the idea of taking a course is different than just listening to a podcast. And it's designed to help you accelerate the growth journey that we've been on.
Yes.
Also, group coaching, group 4 is closing on the 14th of July. So get in, go to nextleveluniverse.com, click on the group coaching tab. All the information is there, but you got to get in fast because we're only taking 10 people. And again, it starts in 2 weeks.
I just want to make sure we're on that date for sure. Did you check? Yeah. Wednesday, July 14th.
We will be kickstarting.
Ladies and gentlemen, as mentioned our next episode, 654, how to help your partner be more vulnerable, from our Q&A. Very, very important question, especially when it comes to that's something you and I have really, really worked on, and I definitely think it's benefiting us greatly in our relationships. We love you. We appreciate you. And as always, we do not have fans. We have family.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.